Well, there's unemployment now north of 16% still. A lot of trained, educated people leaving the island. Not dishwashers and busboys, but doctors and architects and computer designers. This is as bad as it gets. I mean, the cycles go up and down with the American economy. This is pretty severe pain for this 3,500 square mile island. What's going on economically down there, Robert?
Well, it's a very complex question to answer, but definitely you have our recession started before the U.S. recession, and we all know that, and we are cognizant about it. However, we're having a problem. The migration, we're having a brain drain, just like it's happening in many developing countries. Folks, with the difference with us, that we're American citizens, we can just make that quick, take that flight, come here, unite with our friends and relatives, and press on and start a new life. Even though most of us, I think I can speak for all of the members here, that we maintain a very close connection with our family back home, and we wish we can. All of us want to live there, but the economy, well. You have the financial crisis was all very detrimental to the island, as we know, because we're part of the U.S. banking system, et cetera. What can we? The question is, how can we get our economy back on track? Well, we need to go global. Global in the sense that we need to prepare the island and have our business leaders be cognizant of the markets beyond the U.S. We have the U.S. market. It's an easy one if we know how to penetrate it, but we need to engage the global level. If there's trade talks or trade negotiations between the U.S. and Colombia, Panama, Puerto Rico's got to have a voice. One might say, well, we don't have the political muscle for that. Well, yes, we do. And the president's visit is one of them, because if he's coming to the islands because he knows that the attention of the voters here in the States, the Puerto Rican voters, they're looking what's going on back home, and they're going to, the key states that we talked at the beginning of the panel, like Florida, you have that swing vote, and you have someone like Senator Marco Rubio coming on board and kind of getting into the political scene. Getting the economy going. It's beyond the national stage, but we need to go global. But how do we position our companies to go global? We have the many programs, many incentive programs, but we need to think out of the box. And one can say the status is probably something that holds it back. I don't believe that. I believe that, money has no loyalty to anyone. Business folks will invest where they feel secure. And if our status was to change, I believe it would be in a peaceful way, obviously, if we change statuses. And investors feel comfortable with countries that have a peaceful democracy transition. Ours, we do have a democracy, but we do have deficits in it. So we need to get how we get the local economy going. It's not an easy question to answer, because I think the business folks, even back home, they still have that fear of making that long-term investment because of the status. And I think the panel members here might agree to disagree with me, but when you talk to major business folks back home, the local businessmen, they do want to invest, but they kind of feel unsure if things kind of change, what's that going to change. And if we don't have a transition plan before we make that change, so business can invest and feel secure that if there's a change, okay, well, we can move along with that change. And I believe that has to be a comprehensive plan where if there's a change, either way, things keep moving, and we try to get into that global economy either way.
Manuel, the preferential tax status of manufacturers in Puerto Rico was phased out. And a lot of those places, not all of them, but a lot of them, went to the Dominican Republic because the labor costs are cheaper, and it was just as easy to be there as on the island. Was that a good idea, phasing out that preferential tax status, and has it hurt in the long run?
Well, you have to understand, when colonies were made to make a profit. Puerto Rico is a colony, they have to make a profit. And what happened is, when you get all these companies going to Puerto Rico and displacing the local economy, the small businesses, we get CVS goes to Puerto Rico and displace the local pharmacists and drugstores. Those people they become unemployed. They have to leave the country and come to the U.S. to look for a better life. When you get Target that goes to Puerto Rico, yeah, they will create a few jobs. But what about the small stores that...
Well, CVS and Target are retailers, that's one thing, but Eli Lilly and Microsoft and Compaq went to Puerto Rico, and they weren't displacing Puerto Rican computer companies. They were they were bringing new employment to the island.
Right. I don't have the answer why these companies left from Puerto Rico and what we should do to bring them back. I know if Puerto Rico have a different status, we can create programs to attract foreign investors, not only Lilly's and Merck and companies from the U.S. There are tons of countries from Japan, Germany. We can bring them to our country and create jobs. But right now, we have our hands tied, and we cannot deal with other countries and bring companies from other countries. Yes, the U.S. companies leave, you bring other companies, and they can create jobs.
Well,
But I
Representative, if you're looking over the Western Hemisphere and the Caribbean and you want to put your business someplace, if you're a European looking for a way into the North American market, if you're already in this hemisphere but looking for a new place to do business, why pick Puerto Rico or why go somewhere else?
Yeah, it all boils down to cost of doing business. We are in a globalized economy. It's cliche, but it's reality. In Puerto Rico, the economic strategy for a very long time was simply to change Puerto Rico from an agricultural society to a manufacturing society. Right now, 40% of the GDP in Puerto Rico comes from the manufacturing sector, and a lot of it is foreign companies. It's controlled foreign corporations. They do get tax benefits as it is. They don't pay federal taxes on the income they generate in Puerto Rico unless they repatriate those profits to the U.S. So now, what's happening now is that we have changed the model. Now it's a multi-sector model. Puerto Rico's economy is becoming ever more so a services economy. The manufacturing sector is huge. It's very important. What we're doing is trying to reduce the cost of doing business. For example, streamlining the permit process that happened. Second, energy. Energy costs in Puerto Rico are twice as high as the mainland. So we're diversifying our sources of energy, turning to natural gas as well as wind and solar. That has to be done urgently. And then it's just to promote exports. It was mentioned here. We need to promote exports. The President's task force is emphasizing that. We need the Department of Commerce engaged in Puerto Rico to assist us to have an export vision. Because for too long, again, and this has to do with being a territory, we simply looked up to the mainland. And that's it. And we need to realize that we're competing now with NAFTA and all these free trade agreements. We're competing with the whole world. Lastly, I should say that always status comes into play. Because you're talking, why 50 years? Well, that's the story of an American territory. Many times we're an afterthought up here. And that's not right. That's why I advocate for statehood, but I respect the independence for Puerto Rico or even national sovereignty. I just think that we've been an American territory for so long that the natural trend is to go and become a full-fledged American citizens. And that's going to help financially, economically, because there will be no political risk when Puerto Rico is a state of the Union.
Luis?
Well, I have to say, my personal view is that status is the issue. When we talk about the economy, it comes down to status. It's like when you're driving a car and you get a flat tire and you take it to the shop and they patch it up. They patch up your tire. Well, that's meant as a temporary fix, but at some point you're going to have to buy a new tire. You're going to have to buy, well, I think we've been patching up our problems for far too long in Puerto Rico, and we need to buy a new set of tires. There are just too many temporary fixes that are out there. If you look, for example, you started this discussion saying that the unemployment rate in Puerto Rico is north of 16%. And this is after all the initiatives that the governor has already implemented and that we're starting to see, some light at the end of the tunnel. But it also comes after, thanks in great part to the good offices of the resident commissioner, the federal government invested over $7 billion in economic stimulus funding for job creation and infrastructure projects, whatever. And even after that huge investment that has taken place in the last year and a half, our unemployment rate is still north of 16%. So I think we need to, unless we resolve the status question, it's going to be very difficult for Puerto Rico to get its economic house in order because of what the other panelists have said. It's hard for companies to come in and invest in Puerto Rico when there is all this uncertainty. They don't know where we're headed. We don't know where we're headed, for heaven's sake.